What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to episode 34 of Domiciled, the podcast that explores the subculture of truck drivers as well as logistics professionals, bringing their stories to the masses. I'm your host, Scott Cleary, and before we kick things off, let's talk about Purple Squirrel, our favorite colorful recruiting rodent. Purple Squirrel represents freight agents, freight brokerages, and freight forwarding companies. If you'd like to earn more, reduce your liability, and grow your career, you should have a chat with Ryan Smith over at Purple Squirrel about becoming an independent agent. They represent multiple broker and forwarding companies, allowing them to provide you with several career offers. You have options. Let them advocate on your behalf. So as you can see, I'm solo. Paul is still working those shows. So your boy is solo again. I wonder how many steps he's getting per day. So I average about 15K on a busy show day. I'm 6'1", and he's like 5'8". So probably, I don't know, call it like 17 to 18,000. I bet he's just Marvin Martianing around that place, just crushing it right now. But anyway, you're stuck with another monologue from good old Scotty Love Handles for anybody who follows me on Instagram. So here it is. Recently my brother moved in with me. I'm 34, he's 24, and obviously that means we're 10 years apart. And I was out of the house full time except for summers by 17. I'd gone away to school. It was just something I needed to do, and he's the youngest of three of us. So I'm 34. My sister is 32. Shout out Danny, she's awesome, and then Hunter, he's 24. Like I said, so I wasn't around, and neither of us were really around when he was starting at a young age for him, at least not constantly, right? We were back for holidays, living there in the summer and working. But, it's just something, being together often isn't something we got to do or consistently. And given our age gap, it's tough to sometimes connect or be on the same page, just be at the same place in life. So now that he is 24 and beginning, we moved down to Florida to kind of get the heck out of Dodge and start a new chapter of his life, which I'm proud of him. He's working hard to do, and just got hired as a bartender bar back at a spot over in Ybor City. So he'll have a lot of fun doing that. But just having him in the house and being able to have this person, right, that's not only my sibling, but like I remember the day he was born, I bottle fed him, and now I'm 6'1", he's at least 6'1.5". I'll give him that much. He's a little bit taller than me. The kid's ripped, he's handsome, and it's just wild having him in my house every day. And it's so cool getting up and being able to chat and getting to be able to reinvent and recreate and reform our relationship, just because we haven't had that opportunity our whole life. And it's something that being closer to my siblings is something I've always wanted to be able to do, because we all have lived our own lives and done our own things. And I'm proud of both of them. And so to get the chance to live with them for a short period, because I'll be moving in with Emily, my girlfriend, soon, but being able to live with them for a short period of time and help them get going is it's just completely something I used to pray for, I guess. Not that I'm a big on prayer myself, but just something I used to ask for at the very least, whether it's prayer, whether it's just a wish, whatever it might be. But that's what I'm up to. That's what's going on with me. So I guess at this point, I don't even know where to start on this intro. I mean, first things first, this guy clearly knows that flattery will get you everywhere, because he hit me up on Instagram thanking me for my support after I shared a reel of my story. He then messaged me again saying that he loved our content and wanted to be a guest on our show. So that was just kind of wild to me, because Domiciled, as everyone knows, is still in its infancy, and we'll take the compliments. We'll take all the compliments we can get. But when a guy with over 16,000 Instagram followers and over 50K, 51K YouTube subscribers says that, you say, thank you very much, you book his ass and get him on the show. Now, as exciting as that is, what's most important about this interview coming up is the type of content that he puts out. It's fantastic. Again, that he has this following. He's clearly putting out good content. We were flattered to receive the compliment from somebody who built something on socials. But again, what's most important is what he is putting out there. And he's out there talking about all things trucking, from how to make money with trailer pools to historic facts that are impacting us today in our current freight and political environment, just geopolitical environment for the country, and just how things work and interact, to the lack of necessary safety precautions enforced by the governing bodies of trucking, and everything in between. And quite honestly, whatever he wants to share from the personal side, I'll let him, because I won't even attempt telling that side of the story, because it's truly something that only he could share. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Avante Jackson, aka CDL Shorty. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
All smiles over here. Appreciate you hopping on. So I know that, you know, when we chatted a little bit pre-show and some of the messages we sent back and forth, as well as the stuff I saw that you put out there, you know, there's a lot of things that you're really passionate about. And some of them are around rules and laws, some of them are around safety, some of them are just how truckers are treated in the industry. So tell me, man, what made you start creating this content, and what are the things that are like really getting you going today? What are the things that people really need to be listening to?
Great question. Great question. Well, one of the things that really pushed me to start creating content was, I felt like there's a lot of things being left out there. A lot of truckers are getting misrepresented. A lot of people don't really know what we go through out here on the road. So, I felt like with my content, I'm out here, I'm teaching, I'm actually driving, all things of that nature. And I felt like I have a voice. I would love to use it. So my content is really geared towards the driver, because a lot of people will look at it from a shipper standpoint, a customer standpoint, a freight broker standpoint, freight forwarders standpoint, and whatnot. But nobody really talks about the actual trucker, the driver that makes it all happen. With my content, so with my content, I definitely try to come at it from a driver's perspective. I stand up for the drivers. I love the drivers because I am one. I've been one since 2015. And I just want to make sure that they're not left out.
And that's why, as you found out earlier when we were talking pre-show, and as we say on the show, that's why Domiciled's around. Two guys who are a couple of former brokerage knuckleheads who now work on the tech side of things, but we know how important the drivers are. So we wanted to get that from the drivers, hear things from drivers, and if not drivers, like I said earlier, logistics professionals too. But it's usually logistics professionals that are adjacent to drivers. What kinds of services they're providing? Hey, what type of safety courses they're providing for their drivers? So I'm with you, man. All that's super important. So what made you decide to get into trucking? Whether it's usually people fall into it, or it's like a family thing, or legacies. What brought you into it before we get going on the hot buttons today?
Well, what got me into it was it's always been a thing of mine, like a something I always wanted to get into. I had a brother of mine that was in it at the time that I got in it. A cousin of mine was in it, and at that time I was trying to figure out what I wanted to really do in life. There's a funny story. When I was a little bitty boy, my mom used to say and tell everybody that I always used to run around and say, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a truck driver and I'm gonna sell fresh fish. I don't know where the fresh fish part came from, but that's what I used to say. And then later on in life, you go through journey and whatnot, trying to figure it out. I was a pharmacy technician for CVS Pharmacy for 5 years, and I thought that was going to be my career path. And then it turned out not to be. And then I got laid off from there and went through a real bad situation. And my brother then, he said, well, you don't have anything to do. I got a load going to Victoria, Texas from Charlotte, North Carolina. He's like, why don't you just jump in the truck with me? And that's what I did. And from that moment on, man, I diesel just got in my blood from that moment on. And God rest his soul, he actually passed away a week before I started truck driving school. So,
oh, wow.
He didn't even get to see this part. And then I have a cousin in Atlanta named Tony, and Tony, he let me see the business side of it, the money side, all of that. So that's how I got into it. That was my start of my journey.
Okay, so that's very interesting. Definitely, it's a few avenues we get down there here. But you said you had somebody who taught you the physical aspect of driving the truck, but then you also had somebody to teach you the business side. And I think I would imagine that even if you're a company driver, understanding that is so important, and especially if you're owner, op, or lease purchase. I think that those are topics that people don't really realize they need to understand when getting into that. And what do you think the best way is for folks who maybe didn't have the rabbi you did help you the financial sides? How can they educate themselves on something like that?
Oh, great question. The way that they can educate themselves on that is, I would say one, maybe look into lease purchase. I know, we talk a lot of bad stuff about lease purchase, how the lease purchase program can be predatory or whatnot, but it does teach you a little bit about the business side of it as well. And then, if you really want to dig deep down into it, you can take some business courses, some business classes, things of that nature to teach you how, to actually run the business. And then follow people that talk about business, that actually, want to dig deep down inside and pick your brain and things of that nature. And it makes you think. So those are a few steps that I would personally take.
Okay, so and you bring up another good point with like what's available out there on YouTube, on Instagram, I guess TikTok and X as well for those who have those channels. Would you say that's there's enough reliable information out there that people can self-educate?
Yes, definitely. There's enough out there, but you have to watch who you're getting it from, though. I would always say, yeah, I would definitely always say, follow somebody that maybe might have a business degree or something of that nature. There's a lot of books out there that a lot of people will reference as far as business is concerned. So those are the steps that I would take, but always make sure that you follow the right people, sift out the good people versus the bad people, because you can get misled. You can get a lot of misinformation.
Mm-hmm. I'm just, this is actually interesting to me. So I'm just going down this rabbit hole here. So obviously that's with anything on social media, right? You got to be careful where you're getting it from, because there's no one's citing things typically in they're doing it. It takes on people's opinions or what their experiences are, whatever it might be, sometimes backed by data, sometimes not. So what are, again, for those starting out, you're such an advocate, what are maybe some things you should look out for, that some red flags, or what are they really saying, or is this accurate?
Well, definitely go out and ask, do your own research as well. Fact check people. One thing about my content is I don't just sit up there and talk. I actually provide papers on where I got stuff from. Always cite your source. A lot of people I found out within the trucking industry, especially a lot of truckers out there, which are my brothers and sisters, but a lot of people get to the truck stop and they let emotion rule them. And with that being said, they'll start talking without any facts. But so definitely make sure that you're following someone that's actually stating facts, citing sources, and actually can make a very good, compelling argument without getting emotional about things.
So essentially how any, I guess, semi-aware person would peruse social media in general, then pretty much the same thing. Go with your gut. If it stinks, it probably stinks. Or if it, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, as they say. All right, cool. So that's good to know. Just figured if there's any new truck drivers or aspiring truck drivers out there, it's some important information to have. And we've heard some similar things from others before, but it's always good to reinforce it and to understand different sides of it. So now, what would you say, right? You're talking about your content a little bit. Let's get into that, because I found that very interesting myself. And I don't usually stay on someone's page too long. I'm not saying because you're on here and we're recording this, but I actually did. I spent more time on your page than I typically do. I'll watch a reel or two and usually get out unless it's something that like really interests me, right? And trucking does interest me, but it's typically not something I'm going to go down a rabbit hole on. And I was prepping for the show, so I didn't necessarily go down a full rabbit hole, but I could have. I was feeling myself, and I was like, I got other things to do. I got to write this intro, and I got to get ready for a CDL Shorty. But I really liked just how you presented it. It just spoke to me, and it's something I could consume well. What are some of the main things that you're covering? Say this year, there's so much going on. What do you think some of the main topics are? And then let's jump into each of those if that sounds good to you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, one, broker transparency. That is definitely one of the main things. See, FMCSA had pushed it back to 2026 now. But I'm still out here fighting for it. There's other truckers that are out here fighting for it. And we're fighting for it, not just for a sense of negotiation, but just a sense of fairness. So I say that's number one. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the English proficiency, spot market rates, things of that nature. That'd be number two. And then the safety aspect of everything, from under-ride crashes to non-domiciled and domiciled CDLs. So those are a few hot topics that are going on right now within the trucking industry.
Okay, so let's start with the broker transparency. You had the hat on earlier, and just put that a bit into layman's terms. That's Title 49 CFR 3C. So for a knucklehead who doesn't know about that, what does that mean when you say you're looking for broker transparency?
Okay, good. Well, first of all, that is, you're right. As a trucker, there are a lot of brokers that put it in carrier agreements that if we do business, if you haul freight for me, you would waive your right to this, if to this rule or this law, if we do business. So I don't think that that's fair, number one. But we have to go back in history. I'm a big historian, so we have to go back in history. So this actually came about from deregulation of 1980, when the ICC came into place. There were actually not that many freight brokers out there. Once upon a time, they didn't even call them freight brokers. They called them another name. And then what happened was, truckers, we actually had the power. We had the power to go to shippers and get direct freight. And then a middleman, aka the freight broker, came in and started like making sales calls on our behalves. And then this rule was actually not in our favor at first. Yellow Freight was the first to oppose it. I think it was back in 83 or 84. But we were getting paid direct from shipper. And then the ICC said that we had to give the freight broker or the salesperson a percent. I think it was from 5 to 8%. And they didn't know what we were giving them at first. So they lobbied for it. They fought for it. And then they put the ball in their court. They flipped it on us. And then they went and got backing and things of that nature from different factoring companies and stuff like that. And then that's how it got flipped. So right now, I'm fighting for that to come in play. It actually is a regulation that is on the books right now, but they're not playing fair. FMCSA is really not holding up their end of the bargain when it comes to this. But for instance, the reason why I say fairness is because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the TQL and Pink Cheetah case. Have you heard about that?
I have a little bit of it, but I can't
good.
say that I'm educated on the full topic. So if you have some cliff notes that you want to drop about it, please feel free.
Okay, yeah. So Pink Cheetah, I think it was last year, Pink Cheetah actually ran a load of ice cream for TQL. And after she ran the load, she asked for broker transparency. So she didn't, obviously she waived her right within the contract, or maybe she didn't. I'm not quite sure about that part right there, but then they wouldn't give it to her. So she actually went and took it to court, and the FMCSA actually wrote a letter on her behalf to TQL and said, you must comply by this. You must give her broker transparency. And they did. Well, they didn't say you must.
Showing the rate. So essentially showing the rate that TQL got from the customer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, they didn't say that you must, but they said, we advise you, yada, yada, yada. So they did. And come to find out, now we all know that the average broker margin is between 13 to 14%. Come to find out, TQL actually took 44% of that load. So then she proceeded to take them to court, and she lost. But she didn't lose for the reason that you think she lost. The reason why she lost is because FMCSA didn't write a clear enough letter to enforce broker transparency. So the judge actually threw the case out and, said FMCSA didn't write a clear enough letter. They wrote a letter more or less like a guideline versus a you must type deal. Right. Yeah. So, but the judge, on her behalf, the judge said in his ruling, he said, unfortunately, I'm going to have to throw this case out. But he was like, TQL, you're not off the hook because I don't like this wording. This is predatory language, blah, blah, blah. So TQL got a slap on the wrist, but they still won that verdict. But the reason why broker transparency is so important is because 44% markup is ridiculous. That's crazy. And that's just unfair. And there's some other brokers out there that'll sit there and say, that those brokers are bad. So I try to point out the bad brokers and point out the good brokers.
Okay. So I was a former broker myself, and I will fully admit to having had made various mistakes in my days from naivete, right? Like times where, again, I'll admit, like I told the guy it was an 8 a.m., but it was like a 5 a.m. appointment for like delivery. Just stuff that I didn't know any better when I was trying to hustle and put food on my table at the time. That now, if I were to ever go back, I've learned things, especially after doing this show. You just certain things you just don't do. So from that side, right? Let's just play a little devil's advocate just for the sake of argument and to hear it, right?
Oh, sure,
So
yes,
I'll play the assumed brokerage standpoint of, okay, so say we'll use round numbers, right?
Okay.
So say it was a $1,000 load, and you said they made 44%. So a little, $1,440 on the load using that amount, right? Or I imagine it was much higher given it was ice cream, given that she was upset about the disparity between what the broker got paid and she did. But the point being, or I guess the argument to be made on the side is, regardless of what we sell it for to the shipper, right? You should also be selling yourself for to the broker, right? It's like, hey, whatever you think this load's worth is what you should be asking for. Now, if you think it's worth 1,400 or 1,300 and you accept 1,000, is that on you?
Ooh, I like that. I like that. And well, first of all, I'll answer that question. Number one, yeah, because it should be a better negotiation on that driver's standpoint. So I will take accountability for that. But then on that standpoint, I would then go to say that broker transparency actually helps out, because how much did the broker, bid for that load? And then
Right.
is it a broker situation, or is it a shipper pricing situation when it goes to that point, because there it gives no wiggle room from the price that you pay the trucker and the price that the broker has to get as well. We know you guys need to make money. We know,
100%.
Yeah. So a lot of my content lately has kind of been geared toward, okay, let's take some of the pressure off the brokers and let's start talking to some of these shippers and seeing what some of these loads is going for. Now, I know one thing about TQL. I know they're famous for bidding low. They like to bid low, which shippers love, and they don't leave no profit margin for the trucker.
Right.
So on that standpoint, yes, the trucker should, negotiate more, because you only get what you negotiate.
Sure.
But in the same token, on the back end that we don't see is, how can I negotiate when there's really no profit margin on the back end that we don't see to negotiate with? You as a broker, you might have bid low to where you only got $500 in it, so we need to start seeing that standpoint.
Okay, gotcha. So I see that, and again, yeah, that was purely from the let's have the conversation. Definitely not saying that it doesn't make sense, and I wouldn't pretend to be educated enough on the topic to make a hard stance on it. But that being said, with how low rates have been the last few years, especially this year and the last year, and now this whole year, clearly there are many issues going on. I mean, simple economics. One lever doesn't fix all the other levers. If you pull one that's good, few others are probably going to switch that are bad, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, it's never as clear cut as we like to think it is when we have all our brain trusts around the TV with our friends. But now that is an interesting topic. So you're saying if there's $500 in the load from the broker's side, if the carrier knows that, they can help the broker, or they can, the broker needs to make the money, but then the carrier knows where the wiggle room might be for them. Like, hey, it cost me, $210 to run my truck, $210 a mile to run my truck. This is paying me $205. I'm losing money. Like I need $220. So I guess you could still argue. I mean, at least $220. That's like nothing. But yeah, I guess you can still argue that it's like, okay, well, you need to know your costs, your operating costs, all that. But at the same time, I definitely see that. Clearly, again, if you don't know how much is in it and you've got to get out of somewhere and they're making a killing and you're getting killed, that's where it's not fair, right? So I hear you. I hear you with that. Because like you said, that it's driving the market down.
Yeah, we're not here to, make you guys look bad. We want to work with you guys. We want to work 100%. Together. But then when you have enough brokers over here that are not playing fair, and you have truckers over here that may not know their cost per mile, which they should, because I've been at truck stops, I'm handing papers out.
Oh, you gotta.
I'm trying, yeah. So, I raised the question, are brokers predatory because are they taking advantage of the trucker that don't know their cost per mile? So their operating costs and things of that nature. So we want to work with you guys, but it's got to be some negotiation, some tug and pull.
100%. So you mentioned as well before that you felt that, like, hey, let's you want to bridge the gap between carriers and between brokers and even probably shippers too, right? Because we all play a part. So what are some things that you believe or that you've seen work, that you think we could do to make that better, to make this a better situation for everybody? Because I saw an article that even shippers are struggling.
Yes. One thing is, there's definitely been some creative content creators that have started, talking to different brokers and putting them on their platform, and definitely have truckers getting on. I'm trying to have a lot more truckers getting on LinkedIn. Because I know that's more of a business, platform. And then as well as trying to bring more awareness to broker carrier summits. A lot of carriers need to come to those, which they don't. So I think, from those different type of platforms, that's one way or a few ways that we can kind of bridge this gap.
Okay. And you mentioned BCS. Are you going to be at the one in Orlando?
I'm trying to get there. I got a good buddy that's a freight broker of mine, Trent, the freight broker, or Forever Freight Broker. He'll be there. Another freight broker buddy of mine named Victor. He'll be there. Yeah. And
I'll be there, man.
Oh, you'll be there too?
I need you to get there, man. I need you to get there. If I can help you somehow, you let me know.
I'm trying.
I know a few people.
Okay, cool.
All right. We can see. We'll see what we figure out. I'd love to meet you too, man. Anyway, we'll keep you later. But like that is true, right? Because like you said, BCS, that's a perfect example. Like, or getting on LinkedIn. I love the idea of getting on LinkedIn for drivers because it is a professional platform, like you said. However, I think people are met wherever they are, right? No one's going to expect you to be a certain way or speak a certain way. Like, you are allowed to be I'd say, well, usually people are a professional version of themselves, but it's still good to have your personality. I do think, we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, I do think people are bringing certain things into LinkedIn that should not be brought into LinkedIn. That being said, I think it would be a good place for drivers because, many may think that they wouldn't be welcome there. It's like, oh, that's for white collar. It's like, no, it's I've seen some drivers on there, and it's really cool to see their opinion, because like they'll just throw something at you that like you never even thought of.
Right.
Like, and again, we interview drivers. I would never pretend to understand what it's like to be one, but like I interview drivers, and then this seems like this simple topic, and then there's a driver who'll just throw in their opinion in the comments, and it's like, oh wow, none of us would have had that perspective because we don't do that unless you work with drivers. So I think that'd be fantastic. And then yes, getting in front of each other at real events like BCS, I think that's huge. So
yeah, I'll take it even a step further. I take it. I would love for a broker to get in the truck with me one day, or get in the truck with somebody and just ride with us and take a shower at a truck stop and sleep at a truck stop, so that way, you guys can truly feel what we feel. I know that my biggest competitor is the trucker that's beside me, but with education and bridging this gap, maybe he won't cut my throat as much because he knows that, guess what? You can't drain all the profit out of that load, because if you do that, now you're going to cut your own throat, so I like to, those are kind of outside the box scenarios that I like to throw out there.
I like that. So, well, now speaking of domiciled, where are you domiciled out of? I didn't even ask you this. Where are you out of, man?
I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
You're out of Charlotte. Okay. So those are your runs, and that is where you're out of. I got a buddy in Waxhaw, actually.
Oh, nice. So that's right up the block.
So there you go. Yeah, it's a cool area. But so that being said, so anybody in the Charlotte area who needs to ride along, CDL Shorty's your guy. I've actually been thinking about, like, how cool would that be to do for a day or two or whatever the run is, and not only learn, but to take, to video it, take clips for it, like really see and show people what it's about, which many drivers do already, but still you can never have enough because everybody looks at different things. So that'd be fantastic. And I think that not only should brokers do a dock tour, but maybe it's tough to line up something as, I guess, logistically complex as doing a ride along with the driver on a route, but maybe doing like a delivery day with like a local LTL delivery terminal, and just be there, just see what it's like to go in and out of the location, deal with delivery issues. And again, it's a pallet or two, typically not a full truckload where you really need the dock and it's this and that. It's more complex, but still, just being there, you can feel it. And I think that would do a lot. And I do think that anybody who goes into a brokerage, and I wish I had done this too, starts in ops. I think you need to start in ops because then you understand what it's like to interact with carriers so that you can treat them better when you're selling to the customers. And that's a skill I wish I had before I sold to shippers myself.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree with you. And on the flip side, I think some of us carriers should get out of the truck and maybe come in the office with some of you guys and learn some of the back office things. Because one thing that I found out is, and I'm glad you brought up LTL and FTL, but there are some truckers out there that, and I know this may be sad, but I got to hold us accountable too. There are some truckers out there that don't really fully understand FTL. And there are some brokers that take advantage of that. Example, if you say, not saying you personally, I'm just saying example.
Go for it. Yeah.
If you say, okay, FTL, and I read the contract and I say FTL, you say it's 2 pallets, but it's FTL, or 4 pallets, but you got the full truckload. And I come there and I come to pick up the load and it's 6 or 7 pallets. That's not what we agreed on. We didn't, now you're going to have to pay me extra. But see, there's some brokers that take advantage of the verbiage and the wording. So I'm out at the truck stops handing out papers and saying, hey, truckers, be aware of this, be aware of that, be aware of this. So those are the type of education tools that I'm doing and the tactics that I'm doing on my side.
Absolutely. So one more on the brokerage side, I think I'm bridging that gap. So for the people who might be like, well, why? If I got the truck, et cetera, why do those extra pallets matter? And why does it matter? So the brokers understand. And then why does it matter for the truck drivers who haven't received one of your handouts yet?
Okay, cool. One of the reasons why it matters is because now you're putting more weight on my truck. And more weight's going to equal more money, number one. And then number two, if it's a full truckload exclusive to you, now I can't make any money on a partial or anything like that. So that's why it matters. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess basically same information for the driver. This is why you should care.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Perfect. Good stuff. All right. So let's see. Do we want to go into ELP, or let's break it a little bit?
Okay.
And then we'll get back to the serious stuff. Hit me with like either a memorable experience or like a story you're like, you won't believe this. Whether that's something that another driver even wouldn't believe, or just something that your normal person would be like, no way does the driver deal with that. Something pops in your head.
Okay. Well, one experience I've had was when I first learned how to chain up a truck. I was in Laramie, Wyoming. I was heading to a truck stop. I was going up a mountain out there, and it started raining. And then it started getting foggy, and then the rain started turning into ice. So I shaved my own head and stuff. And I called my trainer. And this is when I had just upgraded, got my own truck. And I called my trainer. And my trainer was like, well, you got any de-icer? And I was like, no. He said, well, you shave, so use the rubbing alcohol. You got some rubbing alcohol with you? I said, yeah. He said, use the rubbing alcohol, pull over, douse it all on your windshield, and then you can use that as a de-icer. Man, I did that, learned something new that night. Did that. But then it started to get icy going up that mountain. So I had to pull back over because I started slipping. And and out there they had, that's I-80, they had signs, saying
famous I-80
and all that. Yeah. So another old school truck driver saw me struggling with my chains. And man, he helped me. He helped me. And that's when I learned how to chain up. And, from a brokerage standpoint, those are things that the broker, and I don't want to make this all about the broker, but the broker and the shipper don't understand, like when y'all track us and stuff like that, y'all do geofencing and stuff like that, and y'all want to know why we on the side of the road and things like that. Well, I got to chain up.
I'm on a mountain.
Right, I'm on the mountain. I got to chain up. So, so when I went through that was an experience that will forever be stuck in my mind.
And that's a great point you bring up too. And that's a wild experience because I used to sit in an office, right? So in my head, when I was newer at this in my mid-20s, like I realized after about a year or so, when I started getting some out west lanes, like not all miles are created equal. Like there, especially during some certain time of year, right? If you're in the Southwest in the summer, it is hot as all hell out there. And you got to worry about the truck overheating or your AC going out and you're sweating everything off. Or you're in the mountains in the winter and you got to chain up and it's dangerous. You got switchbacks. I mean, I'm sure you're avoiding switchbacks, I hope. In the winter, you're
yeah.
able to.
Yeah.
Like, those are scary in the normal terror. I've seen some of those videos with the phone at the front. You're just watching the Kenworth just buzz around. It's like, it's terrible. It's like it looks like it's going off the mountain. Like, I don't know how they do it. I did that in a Jeep Wrangler with a buddy, and I don't think I'd ever want to do that again. But anyways, I digress. But no, and that's a good thing to know, right? Like, all miles aren't created equal, and you got to factor that into rates when talking to carriers. Like, if you're about to go up a mountain, you got to put chains on. That's the same as putting tarps on a flatbed, maybe even more.
Right.
Like, you got work to do now. That's extra work. That's time. And you're on, especially now with regulation, or the heavy regulation, we're under in certain areas. You got an ELD, so you got so many hours, 14 hours a day. And plus, anyways, point is, brokers, think about that when you're pricing carriers out, either it's summer in the hot spots or winter up in those mountains. Because that's a really good point there with that. So, and especially being alone too. But talk about thinking outside the box from your trainer. Like, wait, you pick your head. You got alcohol,
right?
And that might have literally saved you. So that's fantastic. All right, cool. Hey, thanks for sharing that, man. So we'll circle back around to another topic you mentioned, ELP. That is a hot topic. A lot of people feel a lot of different ways about it. Why is that for you such a big thing? What do you focus on most with that?
For me, it's a big thing. Now, a lot of people get it misconstrued when I talk about ELP. Now, I'm not necessarily sticking up for these people, but in the same token, I just want fairness. When we talk about fairness, okay, now I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get some people out the industry, so rates can come up. I understand that. I wish they would have said that instead of focusing more on ELP. Now, what a lot of people don't talk about is in 2016, the CVSA voted to take ELP out. They didn't take it out, but they softened it. And yes, the Obama administration did soften it, but they didn't take it out. That's the misconception that a lot of people don't know about. Now, with them softening it, they still got violations for it, but it was more softer and not really pushed than it is being now.
Right.
We can't deny the crashes. I will say that. I'm not naive to that. But also, you can go to the FMCSA DOT website, and you can pull up crashes within certain states, or actually all states. You can pull up crashes. And I did that. And I pulled up crashes in Arkansas because right around when I was researching this is when it was a big buzz in just Arkansas. It didn't hit everywhere else like it is now. And I pulled up the non-domicile and the domicile crashes. And would you believe that they was damn near neck and neck? So I'm thinking to myself, what's going on with this? First of all, why are they focusing on this? And then I saw a documentary called America's Dangerous Trucks. Me and my wife sat down and watched it. And I've watched that documentary probably about 20 times now. And it goes on to talk about underride crashes, I
saw that clip you had. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually something that's not being talked about. Now, even though the underride crashes aren't that high as far as domicile and non-domicile crashes, it's still a crash. So if they want to come at it from a public safety standpoint, one death is too many. So within that documentary, it was a mother and a father who had lost a son and a daughter. And man, I sat up there and I watched everybody in the trucking industry, from the big names to the small names, sit up there. Even trailer manufacturers sit up there and say, nope, nothing we can do. It's going to cost too much. They just blew everything off. And then when I saw that documentary, and then I see them talk about these non-domicile crashes, it doesn't weigh the same. It doesn't mix because now I'm looking at it like, oh, you guys are picking on a certain type of crowd, Yeah. And then you have a lot of truck drivers, what I said to you before, cite your resources. You have a lot of truck drivers that feel that foreigners are driving down the rates. There's no data on that says this foreigner is calling up this broker and driving down the rates. And actually, it was a few brokers that I've actually listened to on podcasts. I'm not going to say their name because it's your platform, but there's a few brokers. And one of the brokers that I listened to was a female. She actually went as far as to say that, and this was an American broker. She went as far as to say it's not the foreigners. The foreigners, when it comes to business, they got their stuff together. It's the American truckers that don't know their operating costs, that don't know how to talk to people, that pick up the phone and call the broker early in the morning and say, "Hey, what you gonna give me for that load?" And what do you mean? What am I gonna give you? What do you need for it to get down? Right.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts about the ELP.
Okay, gotcha. And you know what? I think, my personal opinion, I think you're on the right track with it, because there's never a singular group of people that's responsible for one single thing, right? Again, we all contribute in some way, whether it's domiciled, non-domiciled, legal or illegal, right? I'm a big proponent that things should be done in a legal way. I'm for anybody being in anything, all about free commerce. I think it should be done whatever, quote, the right way is, right? When I say right way, I simply mean going through proper training and proper certification and being able to proficiently speak whatever the native language is wherever you are, so that you and everyone else around you are safe. That being said, just pointing at any group and saying that's the problem, I think that raises even bigger problems that, again, won't go into on what we like to keep pretty light, because then they'll get political and we don't need to do that. But I do think it's important that, to your point, it's like there's a bigger problem here. The fact is that there are crashes that could be avoided going on. How do we do that? And I do think even some that are harping more so on the ELP being the problem, or non-domiciled drivers being the problem. And there's a lot out there. And again, I can't say I'm educated enough on the topic to make a hard stance, but even them seem to be actually coming out of that a bit and starting to talk about, like, there is just a bigger problem. Like the fact that we're issuing licenses, CDLs, with no name given. Like, so that's state problem. Like, that is crazy that these states, Utah, California, New York, and others, that's just because some I've seen recently, that's why I'm naming those. Like, that's completely bonkers. You can have something that's no name. So basically, if you find somebody who looks somewhat like me, you can just give them that CDL, and then who knows who's behind the wheel. So and you never know what people are going to do for a buck, or steal something, or, you know, whatever it might be. And actually, before I forget, my man, I was talking to somebody, talking to Ben Simmons over RL Solutions, the COO over there, on the brokerage side, but they do have a fleet. And he asked a really good question. Like, I would like to hear this from somebody. And I said, I will ask this tonight. So he wanted to know, what can drivers do on their side to help prevent fraud, right? So, and it's not pointing a finger, it's just saying, like, hey, I'd be interested to hear what can drivers do, because it's hurting you, it's hurting shippers, it's hurting brokers, it's bad for everybody. So what can drivers do to help prevent that? What can you look out for? Who could you talk to if you see a problem, whatever that problem may be?
Oh, I like that. I like that question. And
thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for asking me that question, because we talk about it on our podcast a lot. And one of the solutions that we always say is freight fraud starts and comes from the shipper, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why we say that, because you have a shipper that's looking to move something for cheap. You have a broker that bidded on a load and trying to move it for cheap. So then, well, you ever heard that old saying, you get what you pay for? So
yes, sir.
If you treat, if they actually took time out to think about things, and I understand capitalism and it's a capitalist free market and all that, I got that. But if you took time to actually pay for a white glove service, meaning you look me up on Highway, you look me up on all these vetting tools, you see I got a perfect CSA score, perfect on time delivery, all of that. And you don't pay my price, but then again, you go to somebody else whose CSA scores and you know they meet the qualifications within your price range, and you give it to them. Next thing you know, they're not happy, even though they might sound happy, but they're not happy. And the next thing you know, they're going to pull off at a truck stop or off ramp and unload your trailer with your freight. And next thing you know, it's going to be on its way to Mexico, Canada, or wherever. So I think in order to combat that, rates have to come up. And I know the economy, I know a lot of shippers aren't making anything, but in the same token, and I'm not an economist or anything of that nature, but in the same token, there's some money out there There's some money.
100%.
Who's getting all this money? For instance, highways. We pay a highway tax. We pay the most highway tax out of everybody. But still, the American highways are dangerous. They're treacherous.
Yes.
They're dangerous for our trucks, our tires.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that money going to?
Pockets.
Where's that money going to? Right. So on our podcast, we bring up that question. If you want to fight freight fraud, you need to start paying the reliable drivers.
And I think I saw one of those. And real quick, you brought it twice. What's the name of that pod?
Freight Fridays on the National Trucking Club, National Trucking Network on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram.
Okay, very cool. So hey, everybody, check that out. And then so starts at the shipper. I can definitely see that if you pay the correct rate, you're not going to get the bottom feeders, if you will. You're going to get what you pay for. So when on the road as a driver, what are some things you should look for? For example, like a guy ripping off his MC and putting another one on. Like, what are some other things that drivers can spot and say? Because I think there's probably a bit of a code like, I don't want to mess with my brother and sister drivers, but those are the ones who are messing with you. So what are some things you can physically look for that as a driver's out there to stay vigilant and help themselves as well as everybody else?
Yes, sir. Oh, that's a good one. Definitely, the changing of the MC and stuff like that. And I think they're actually doing away with the MCs in November or September of next year.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you got to look into that. That, as well as speeding, if you see a driver that's doing triple digits and they're not a cattle hauler or anything, it's like, that driver is being unsafe. So things like that. And then also just the way that a driver dresses, the way that a driver carries themselves, he or she, do they take pride in themselves? If they take pride in themselves, then 9 times out of 10, they're going to take pride in your freight, your delivery, and all that. If the truck is junky and it's nasty, and if they get out the truck nasty and junky, then 9 times out of 10, they're just doing this just to be doing it. They're not going to take pride. There's a sense of pride that comes with this job. Well, it used to be. And now we've gotten away from that, and we need to get back to that. So those would be some of the telltale signs, as well as, a driver that is lazy. How can me at a truck stop tell that a driver is lazy? Well, when I'm talking to them and they tell me, I got to be in Amarillo by 12 o'clock tomorrow, and you're all the way down in the valley by McAllen, and I know it's going to take you every bit of 8-9 hours to get up to Amarillo, and you wait till the last minute to leave, 9 times out of 10, that's not a good driver. He's going to be cutting it close, and he or she might have an accident, or they might not get there. So those are some of the telltale signs.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I appreciate that. I know that's something that he was looking to learn. I'm sure a lot of people could get some value from that. So I know that right now, what you do now, you started off as a CDL driver, you got into training. What made you want to do training? And then what are maybe a couple of stories? Because when we had Kiersey on, our first interview ever, we had trucker Kiersey on, and one of the things she does is teach, and she had some wild trucker stories, but her training stories were bonkers. So what got you into training, and maybe a couple interesting experiences you've had with somebody who's maybe not cut up for trucking or had to learn something the hard way. Like, I don't know.
Yes, definitely. Well, first of all, I got pushed into training. I had a heart attack behind the wheel of my semi truck at a truck stop in West Monroe, Louisiana back in 2020. And it went as far as to get a pacemaker put inside of my chest. So I took a year off. And then I was about to get back on the road. I got cleared by a doctor. I got a DLT card. And right before I was about to get out on the road, a few months before I was about to get back on the road, I saw this truck driving school. And I filled out an application because I was uncertain of my future, if I was going to be able to get back out on the road or not. And I'd say about 4 months went by, and right before I was about to pull that trigger and get back out on the road and go OTR again, they called me. They called me and said, "Hey, we remember you from a few months ago. We didn't have a spot open, but now we got one. Would you still be interested?" I said, "Yes, sure." I went, gave it a try, instantly fell in love with it. I found out that I'm a people person. I love to train. I love to get somebody from not knowing anything about a truck to actually getting them all the way to the point to where now they got to take their test on their own accord. And man, my first few students, they would always take their test on days that I wasn't there. I was always at home, or it was my off day, and they would pass on their own accord without me being there. And that's when I knew, oh, I got something going on. I kind of like this.
Yeah, you got a skill. You got the skill, natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I got pushed into it. And then I would say my craziest story is right in Belmont, North Carolina, which is right outside of Charlotte. There is a very skinny little 4-lane bridge. I'm talking about this joker, skinny. And I take my students. I used to take my students down that bridge, and a lot of instructors would tell them, "Hey, split the bridge. This is a big truck, just split it." But I would take them down that bridge, and I would make them stay in the right lane, which is close by the wall. And I know they're nervous, they're gripping their steering wheel, but it taught them to relax, stay in control of the vehicle, look down both mirrors, and it taught them how to be a good driver. And then I will go as far as to take them with a 53-foot trailer and a sleeper cab. I would take them through downtown Charlotte. I'm talking about all through downtown Charlotte.
Shoot. Yeah.
Because I wanted to give them real world scenarios. I wanted to really teach them, put my all into it, and that's what I did.
Okay, so that skinny bridge, I was scared the crap out. I think probably the bulkiest trainee, I'd say. And it builds that confidence. Like if you did, I did this with Avante, I can do this. I did that in training. I got experience now, so that's awesome, man. So, question for you. I know we're wrapping up soon, but when you have a trainee like going over a bridge that close to the edge, and you're in a company truck, right, or you're going downtown with a 53-foot trailer, like. Obviously, you don't do it until you believe they're ready, but
yes,
it's still a 52-foot trailer and things can still go wrong. Like how do you avoid that? Because it's either going to damage the truck, damage public or private property, or God forbid, someone else could absolutely get hurt. So that's a fine line for a trainer to probably say, okay, it's time for this.
Man, that's a very good question. And thank you for asking me, because if you meet me in real life and get to know me and then talk to people that surround me, they'll tell you, man, I got patience. I'm chill. I'm laid back. I don't let nothing bother me. So what may seem nervous and scary to the average trainer, it doesn't for me. One of my tactics that I use when it comes to CDL training is I'm just laid back and I'm relaxed. And when I'm in that passenger seat, I take my hands off of them and I let them just drive, and I let them get comfortable, and I make jokes and stuff like that as an icebreaker, and I treat them not as a student, but I treat them as a friend, a brother, a sister, whatnot. And that actually gets them to loosen up and relax. And, I put them in tight and scary situations, but I take my hands off of them. I let them know that, hey, one day you might have to do this. And then, they'll get it. But when you have a instructor that is hands-on, that, is scary and stuff like that, it's not going to work. So I always tell my students, I'm the captain of the ship. And if I'm not scared, why are you scared? You understand?
There you go. Yeah.
And then when I'm teaching a stick shift, a lot of them are scared about stalling out in traffic, the truck cutting off, them not being able to catch a gear. And then that's when you see, I have a joke. I say that driver's seat is going to get fish grease hot when you're in traffic.
Yeah.
Sweating and everything. But I always reassure them, and I always tell them, I'll make them stop the truck dead in the middle of traffic. And I always tell them, I don't care about these cars. I don't care about people blowing the horn at you or anything like that. I need you to relax, take a deep breath, focus. It says student driver on the back of this truck for a reason.
Right.
Don't worry about these cars. And then when I do that, man, they'll get it in gear, they'll relax, and they'll put it in gear, they'll hit the gas, and they'll take us on down the road. So I'm very relaxed when it comes to that. And to be honest with you, that's just a gift. That's a gift that God, the universe, has given me, because it's not anything that I'm doing that's unnatural. It's just a gift that I have.
Well, that's a heck of a gift, man. Patience is something that I and many other people have had to personally work on, and it's not one of my strengths. I'm definitely better than in my even more former years, but no, that's fantastic. You're able to do that, because when you're telling that story, it made me think of two things actually. So I'm not used to being a passenger. I pretty much always drive, right? I'm either by myself in my car or I'm with my girlfriend who I've been with over 2.5 years now. So I'm used to her driving style and she's good. I'm like, I'm not worried about it. And I'm picky about stuff. And I felt so bad. So I'm not used to being a passenger. I'm with my brother driving and he's new down here, but I forget I'm from a small town. But I forget that he's lived in New Jersey and he's lived in Florida. So, and in my head, like my brain keeps telling me that he's still new to this type of traffic or whatever, and he's not. And and my mom gets so nervous as a passenger. It's dangerous, right? Because if they freak out, right? Or they jump, like it's dangerous, to freak you out as a driver. Yes. So I always tell her that. And we always give her crap. And then just 3 days ago, I was super chill, just relaxing in my brother's passenger seat. And like somebody looked like they wanted to come out of a side street and I didn't make any noise, but I did one of these and he got so mad. And I felt so bad. I'm like, dude, he's like, we get mad at mom for this all the time. Like, I know you're right, dude. You're right. I'm so sorry. I go, like, it'll never happen again. I go, it's purely because I'm just not used to driving with you yet. I know it's a pain in the butt. I'm so sorry. So it reminded me of that. And my driving instructor, just a regular 4-wheel car, not an 18-wheel, nothing fancy, but he never touched that brake on the right side once with me or anybody else I was doing it with. He just let us go. We're, again, small town, nothing you can really get yourself into trouble with. But just knowing that he never touched it, like I was never nervous to do anything. I was confident driving at a young age. And he also had a really funny saying that I always appreciate. He was our gym teacher in grade school, and then he was the driver's ed teacher in high school. Mr. Tibbet, I hope you're doing well. Shout out Mr. T. But anyways, he would say, people would like brake for a squirrel or like swerve for like a bird. He's like, if it's under 30 pounds, run it down. That's how he used to say it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. And we say that in the trucking industry too, because think about it. If we swerve, if we make a jerk, man, we can flip that truck and trailer. So we always say if Bambi run across the road, hit Bambi. Just
hit Bambi.
Hit poor Bambi.
100%, man. And that's tough because like it's like I've had that in my brain forever. But even I, like I'll see like something will dart across the street, and at best I'll just let go of the gas and be like, Jesus, take the wheel. And like either the squirrel lives or it doesn't. But I'm not like, but yeah, like you can't swerve it. But it's so easy to. It's the jerk reaction. So under 30 pounds. But
I'm gonna have to steal that one from him.
Hey, you can steal it. You can steal it. It's been in my head for 20-something years now. So, okay, well, hey, I know we're wrapping up here. Is there any last things you want to talk about or any shout outs you want to give before we sign off, man?
Yeah, definitely want to shout out my wife. She's definitely been with me through thick and thin. All of my family, my cousin Shasha, everybody that was there with me for my heart transplant. And of course, my podcast brothers, Marcus and Avante. I am representing them tonight. I'm 1/3 of Freight Fridays podcast and I love them.
Beautiful.
Our chemistry is great together. And one last thing, also to the question you asked me earlier about how you can spot somebody in the truck stop.
Some shady stuff,
if they got a lock on their trailer. If they got a lock on their trailer without you, the broker or the shipper having to say something, that's a good driver. That's a good driver.
There you go. That's good. That even if the tag gets cut, that thing's still padlocked up. So they better bring some bolt cutters.
That's right.
Extra state. There we go. We like that. Hey, so that CDL Shorty, everybody, Avante Jackson. Man, it was such a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, please be sure to check us out every other Tuesday at Non-Domiciled on YouTube and Spotify for the full episodes, and YouTube and Instagram for the reels. That reminds me, I actually have to put some new YouTube reels up, but I digress. We really appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure, man.